I'm Barry Reynolds. And who are you, sir?
I'm Anthony Racano. I am the host of the Cardboard Jungle podcast, among other things.
Yeah, I always ask people so I don't say their name wrong. With Ignacy, I did a Ignacy Trevicek. I butchered his
Chevicek.
name, so Trevicek. I started asking people to say their own name. It's just easier. Um, so, tell me, how did you get started in the hobby there, Anthony?
Well, a few friends of mine, we started playing HeroScape. A few of us because we had sons who were that age where the game was geared for. And it was kind of cool when I first saw that game in the store. I was looking at it like, wow, this looks really cool. I want to get this, but there's no reason I should be buying this game. I'm a grown man. Um, and then it so happened my son's birthday was coming up, and I said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And he's like, "They have this game at Toys R Us, and it's in this bubble, and it's got these like robots and soldiers." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And in my head, I'm like going, "Yeah, yes, yes." So we got that. We started playing that, and then I was looking to see what other figures there were out there, and I happened across the HeroScapers website. And through there, we started playing HeroScape a lot. We had tournaments we arranged in the area, and I became good friends with Paul, one of my co-hosts, and Matt used to come to the tournaments too, my other co-host. And we just started, hanging out. And we were doing some local conventions in the New England area. We were running the HeroScape events, and we'd go, and then we started getting introduced to more, of the other hobby games that we would play. And we got more and more into board games, and we'd always, go to these conventions and play games and hang out. And inevitably, we'd always end up just sitting around just talking about games. And we started figuring out that people started listening to us at these conventions. They would come, people we knew, some people we kind of knew, but we met there, and they'd stop at the table, and they'd kind of wouldn't even talk to us. They would just kind of like sit and listen. So we were listening to a bunch of podcasts, and then at one of these conventions, I said to Paul, "Hey, Paul, why don't we do a podcast? We like talking about games. People seem to listen to us when we talk about games." And I asked him, fully expecting him to say no. Paul is a little on the shy side. Not very shy, but a little on the shy side for stuff like that. And I'm waiting for him to say no. And I kind of said it like half jokingly. And he's like, "That would be great. Let's do it." And I'm like, "All right." So we started doing the show, Paul and I. Let's see, it's going to be 4 years now since we first had the conversation. Actually, we're going to TotalCon in a couple of weeks, and that's where we had that conversation the first time. So, yeah, after a little while, Matt came on board because we had put up a guest host spot in the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund auction that year, and Matt was the high bidder. And it was kind of cool because we knew Matt. So since we already knew Matt, it was kind of a little more comfortable having him as, sitting in the third chair. And it worked out really good. And a few people who listened to the show said, "Wow, Matt was really good." And at the time, we were doing shows wrapped around our schedules with the kids. So Paul wasn't always available when I wanted to record. So I started thinking that, well, Paul's got baseball season with his son, and he's not always going to be around. If I have someone else on the show all the time, if Paul can't make a show, I don't have to sit there and talk to myself, because I like to talk, but not to myself. So we asked Matt to join, and it turned out actually pretty good because Paul had to take a little bit of a hiatus for a while there. So me and Matt were doing the show, but now all three of us seem to be on track with doing the show. So that's how we started. It was just kind of a shot in the dark question I asked Paul, and he said yes. So
Now, how do you structure your show? Do you guys like sit around and shoot ideas out to each other, or do you have one particular subject you want to talk about each week? Or
all right, I don't suggest this to other people who do podcasts. If anyone listens to our show, they realize that we are very unstructured. We have a basic outline of what our show does and what sections we have in our show, but we do not do show notes, either before the show or after the show. And people are like, where are the show notes? Everyone else has show notes. I'm like, I don't have show notes. if you want to listen to the show, listen to the show. It's not, listen to the show because I'm talking about this. I'd like people to listen to the show whenever. It's like when you listen to talk radio. You don't know what they're going to talk about. You can kind of guess what they may talk about, but you just turn it on and you watch it. It's the same as with the TV show. So we don't do that. Basically, we say, okay, we're going to record on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. What's the topic going to be? And a lot of times the topic comes to fruition Monday afternoon, if not Tuesday afternoon. So we don't do a lot of pre-planning for anything because if you listen to our show is very off the cuff. It's kind of like this conversation we're having now. You ask me a question, I answer it. You say something, I'll react to it. And that's the way I like our show to be. It's not scripted at all. It's not rehearsed at all. I edit the show and do not take a lot of it out. So it's very natural sounding. It may be annoying to some people who are used to very polished sounding podcasts, but I don't care. It's a conversation with me and my friends that you get to eavesdrop in on. If that's not your style, then thanks for checking it out that one time you did. But that's the way we do things.
Yeah, that's actually kind of one of the reasons I like your show. Is the camaraderie between these guys, and you're just shooting stuff out to each other. Most of the podcasts I listen to are like that. Buddies just talking about games. Now, these guys don't live that close to each other, right? You're in New York.
Yeah, I'm in New York. Paul is in southern Boston area. Matt is in the northern Boston area. So we do everything via Skype, and it works out. I wish I would live closer to them, or they live closer to me, so we can hang out more. But we'd probably get sick of each other if we hung out with each other too much. So.
So you guys just mainly meet up at like Total Con the game, or do you select a select week out of the year or something to meet up?
We do Total Con every year. This past year we got invited to Lobster Trap, which is an invite-only small convention in the Boston area, where they bring a lot of the games from Essen. It's right after Essen, so a lot of the new games from Essen come over there, and you get to try them out. We do a game weekend up at Paul's house at some point every year. And other than that, Matt came with me to Gen Con last year. Paul is coming this year. We're going to try to work out maybe another weekend, but that's the extent of our gaming together. We will get on like Board Game Arena online and play games once in a while with each other and get on Skype and just, talk and shoot the breeze while we're playing. But yeah, not a lot of playing between the three of us. Matt and Paul get together more often because they are relatively closer to each other.
Right. Now, does that make you look forward to meeting these guys, or being with the podcast? Is the podcast just a way to keep in touch with them throughout the year, or is it something you decide to do to try and stay with each other throughout the year?
Yeah, one of the original reasons that I wanted to do the podcast with Paul was because that Paul and I would email each other during the day, during the week. Oh, did you see this game? Did you see that game? We're guys. We don't talk on the phone. We would text each other once in a while things. We'd be on the HeroScapers forums. We would talk there. But it was a way to stay in touch and to be able to hang out and talk about games in less than and not have to keep typing back and forth to each other.
Yeah, I get you. Me and my brother were just talking about. We talk to each other twice a year for like 5 minutes on the phone. It's about the extent of it. Now, tell me a little bit about these Muppets behind you. How did you get into that?
Oh, the Muppets. Okay. They're called Whatnots. A few years ago, FAO Schwartz brought them out. And you could order them from FAO Schwartz, and you got to pick out the color you wanted, the nose, the eyes, and they would sew it all up, and you would buy it. And it was extremely expensive for what it was, because it's FAO Schwartz. And then a few years after that, they started selling these kits at Toys R Us, these Whatnot kits. You got the body, you got a bunch of different eyes and nose, and you basically put it together. They're like Velcroed on. And I am a huge Muppets fan. Been since I was a kid. I actually joke around because Sesame Street first was on the air when I was 1. So I always tell people that they made the show for me. Watched Sesame Street religiously as a kid. Watched the Muppet Show. I've seen all the movies. Huge fan of the Muppets. And I always wanted one. I always wanted my own Muppet. So I was always saying, I'm going to get one. I'm going to get one. I want to get one. And my wife thought I was nuts. And then for Christmas last year, she got me the orange one over there. And it was great. I was drive around in the car. If she's driving, I take it with us, and I wave at people. But I don't make any eye contact, which is the best part. Like, he has his own mind of his own. But then the other two, during the Toys R Us clearance sale at the Toys R Us by my office, they deeply, deeply discounted them. So I grabbed 2 more of them. But yeah, no, they're mine. I just play around with them for fun. My kids think they're cool, so right now they think they're cool, but
yeah, I like Muppets myself. I was actually surprised when they did the movie a couple years ago when they brought them back. They were gone for what, 10 years, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. My niece and nephew, they haven't really got into it. I talked to them, and like the stuff they're into nowadays, it's just it boggles me. It's like all the Japanese cartoons and stuff like that, and it just boggles me. It's amazed how much technology has integrated itself into life of kids these days. Now, you have a couple kids. Do you game with them often? Are they into it, or?
I have 4.
Other than yeah.
Well, my oldest is going to be 21 this year. I had him when I was 4. No. But yeah, whenever he comes over, because he lives with his mother, yeah, we were always gaming. My other kids, my middle son, he's 13. He likes games. My 7-year-old son likes games. My 13-year-old daughter, some games I can get her to play. She has the problem of quitting in games, so we have to find things that are very short or something I know she likes. But then the boys are like, oh, I don't want to play that game again. But I'm like, come on, we'll play this game and then we'll play something else after. But I try to get them to game. I don't force it on them. There was a time when my son would actually turn off the Xbox if he saw me open up a game box. Not so much lately, unless it's a particular game. Certain games he'll say, oh, we playing that? Let's play. Okay, fine. And he'll say goodbye to his friends on the Xbox Live and jump on. But yeah, I don't force them to play games. They like them. Sometimes they force me to play games I don't want to play because they just want to play something. I'm like, okay, cool, we'll play a game. But you can only play some games so many times before they start to get boring. Not boring. Anything you do too much of the same thing over and over again just gets a little tiresome. So I try to avoid it if I can.
Yeah, I can see that. Me and Jen were just actually having that conversation. Now, I got into the hobby to get closer to my family. There was my mother died and we were drifting apart and stuff, so I used the hobby to bring them back together. What brought you into the hobby?
I used to play Dungeons & Dragons when I was a kid religiously. I played it by myself. I would sit there and make up adventures and make up characters and do that. We've always played games as a family. When I was younger, my parents bought a piece of property in upstate New York, and my father built a house on it. We had no cable, no antenna, no television. We'd go every weekend when I was a kid, and we'd go for the last 2 weeks of the summer. So, at night there's nothing to do in the country. So we played board games. We played Monopoly and Clue, and we played Masterpiece and Risk and all sorts of different board games. And I've always enjoyed board games. But, then I started playing Dungeons & Dragons, and then I started dating. And then, I had to put away those things because girls were more important at the time. And then, always liked, playing games and whatnot. I played a few like online, multi-person RPG type games, but it was getting that game of Hero Escape for my son that really brought me back because um, from looking for other stuff, finding out about Board Game Geek and finding out about Tom Vassell because it was a big deal on Hero Escapers when Tom put his top 100 list out every year, and Hero Escape was number 3. And everyone was talking about it on their site, and I'm like, who is this Tom Vassell guy? So went and checked it out. I'm like, wow, he's got 100 games, and I've never heard of most of these things. And I started looking into them, and then we started going, to the convention. So my return to gaming is not that long ago. And before we went on the air, we were talking about our collections, and my collection is ridiculous for the amount of time that I've actually been back into gaming. So yeah, it's fantastic. I wish I would have started doing it sooner, because then my wife would have known going into this that I had this addiction. But yeah, I absolutely love it. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah, we were. You said you had like 600. I think I'm around 3. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, I gotta go through the collection and all that. Now I've been at. When did my mother die? 11. She died in 12, so 3 years. So I'm averaging 100 games a year. Your collection is 600 now. Was this like I said to you? I buy roughly 4 games a month, give or take. Are you the same way, or is it just you do like bulk one shot? You'll buy 6 or 7. And...
Well, it's twofold. When I was buying a lot of stuff, I usually buy in bulk. I was buying some stuff, some used stuff. When you first get into the hobby, you are like want to try everything. So I would go on eBay, and if a game was like relatively inexpensive, I'd buy it. Didn't know anything really about the game, but it was like, oh, that looks like an interesting game. I'll get that, and it was like, it's not so great. I don't do that so much anymore, but Paul and I are big proponents of not paying for shipping. So anytime we do place an order with like Cool Stuff or Miniature Market, we have to get free shipping. So that means you need to get 3 or 4 or 5, 10, 20 games. But the other thing now is now that we've been doing the show, I get review copies of some games. So there's stuff coming in, and it's kind of a really cool thing, and at the same time, it's a troublesome thing. And I don't want anyone like feeling pity for me, but when someone sends you a game to review, you have to play it in a relatively short time after you get it. That means that the games you just got that you ordered because you want those games have to go to the side while you play the other ones. And a lot of people who don't do this say, oh, well, but you get free games. I'm like, yeah, I get free games, but for every really good game I get about 10 that I wouldn't have bought myself. So it's something you have to deal with, and then the thing is, those things come in, and then I have to get rid of those. So I'll ask people, send it to me. I'll ask Paul and Matt if they want it. Otherwise, I'll put it up in a trade and get something else. I'll trade 3 or 4 games for one game that I actually want. But otherwise they sit here. I've given some away at price tables at conventions and whatnot, because I really, if I had never gotten rid of any of the games I've got in my collection, it would be probably about 1,200. So.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not that bad. I got about 20 that I'm not going to get rid of soon.
Is that Kingdom Builder over there on the shelf?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
That's one of them. I want to go back to it. I got that very early on. I got that through a trade, I think it was very early on when I got into it. I want to try it again and then decide whether I'm gonna get rid of it. Yeah.
I paid $2 for mine and spent $1.99 more than I really should have.
Oh. Yeah, I heard many people are split down the middle with that. They either love it or hate it. Yeah, so there's that one. There's actually a couple I want to revisit before I decide what to do with it. Normally with me, if I'm not playing it, then it's time for it to go. You know, although there is I have a Game of Thrones back there. I've never played it just because I can't get the player count for it. That's probably the only one I'll keep just to get it to the table eventually. You know, to see whether I like it or not. But I've been actually thinking a lot about thinning this out and what we do play and what we don't play. Because, like you said in the beginning, I was just buying everything without, knowing anything about it. Yeah. Now I put a little more research into it. Although, I recently found out you get tripped up by that sometimes too. You get a game you think's going to be great, the rules look great, you get the table and it just flops. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also the thing about games that you have to get games that you're not that you're going to play. Like I had Game of Thrones, the board game, fantastic game. I'm never going to play it here at home. And a friend of mine has a copy, so if I want to play, I'll go to his house and play his copy. So it has left the collection.
Yeah, I think it will go that way. Like I said, I just want to get to the table once. I thought I could get it to the game group, but a couple guys up there played it, didn't particularly like it. And my gaming group, we only meet up for like 5 hours, so it might be a little tight on time pushing with that with 6 players. I heard that runs a little long.
Yeah, I can.
Now, about the podcast, you said you get review copies, but do you find your buying habits different to showcase these games on the podcast?
No, actually, not so much that, but we talked about it on the show too, that how our tastes in games have changed. When we started, like even when Paul and I started hanging out and playing games and talking about games, Paul was very, very Ameritrash kind of player. The idea of pushing cubes around a board really didn't interest him at all. But he started playing some, started liking them, and then all of a sudden Paul became like the Euro guy, the heavy Euro guy. Now, for myself, I liked Euro games always, but never really like the heavier things. And then last year, we got to play Madeira from What's Your Game?
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely phenomenal game. And that made me want to try more of the games that were deeper and heavier. So since then, I have added up several games that I probably would have just shied away from just because they look too complex, or they look like they were just too much. Because for me, playing a game should be fun. There are games out there that they're just too much like doing work than they are a game. Now, some people do enjoy that. They like that, spreadsheet mentality and like that. To me, I like to have fun. And what I'm finding with the heavier games that I like is they scratch both. They scratch the fun factor for me, as well as they challenge me. So those are games that I'm tending to lean more towards now. Like probably 2 years ago, if you looked at my collection, it would probably be about 80% thematic games. I won't say Ameritrash. Thematic games as opposed to Euro games, and now it's probably about 60% Euro games.
It's interesting. I went through a similar thing. Like now, I play anything now, but I went through a Euro phase. I went through a Ameritrash game phase. Now I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like 60 Ameritrash, 40 Euro. But I'm trying to get into more complex Euro games. It's just tougher with my group, my wife and all that. Um, but I was in the same boat where it just looked like work to me, you know. But I'm trying to explore. I recently played Terra Mystica, and I thought it was a really good game and something I would like to explore more. But I just don't know if that'll work with the group here. Do you find yourself in that situation with where you're at? You know, like your local crew?
Um, Constantly. There are games that, like I said, a lot of time I play games with my kids. So there are things that I know are too much for them. As far as like my wife will play a handful of games. If it goes beyond 3 or 4 rules in the game that she's got to remember, usually that's gonna tune her out. She likes Small World. She likes Catan. We recently been playing a lot of Mysterium, but beyond that, very few things that she'll play. I could never get her to play like Panamax. It's never going to happen. But so I have those games, and those are saved for special occasions when I get with people who I know can handle them, and that's fine. And that's fine. Like I said, I don't need to be sitting there playing, Kanban every single day. I'd like to, but I don't have to. So yeah, getting to go to the local conventions, or getting to go to local game store, meeting with people to play. I don't. Like I said, if I get to play some games 6 times a year, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I like I said, I go to Dallas down there in PA to play with some guys, but they're kind of cool to the new. So it's like the new thing comes in, and it's very rare that we get to an older game more than once. Um, so I'm still trying to figure that out. Me and my wife will play something repeatedly, but again, like you said, there's some games she hates. Cthulhu. She can't get her to play Eldritch Horror, which is one of my favorite games. Can't get her to do it.
I play by myself. It's just easier. My kids like it, but it's too long for them sometimes, and I can tell they're kind of fading. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna play by myself, and I'm perfectly fine with it. If they want to come over and play, they can take a character and play a few turns with that character and then walk away. And I don't care because the game is gonna go on. But yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I recently started doing it, like Caverna. I haven't brought that to Jen yet. I want to get the rules down a little bit more before I do, because it's a little bit heavier. Been playing that solo, and Robinson Crusoe. I've been playing a lot of that solo lately. So yeah, I understand where you're going from there, and it doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Playing solo. Normally, when I do the game, is to be social. But I find the solo thing really didn't bother me as much as I thought it would.
Yeah,
it's actually kind of easier.
Exactly. The thing that's funny is I play a lot of games solo anyway, that even aren't solo games, because I'll get a new game, I'll go through the rules and everything, and then I'll set it up and I will play a game by myself as 3 or 4 players, just because I want to make sure that I understand how the game flow works before I even try to teach it to somebody else to play. So that's kind of a weird thing, because that you're just trying to see the flow. But what I actually like are games that are not solo games, that actually have a good solo variant to them. The solo game in Imperial Settlers is a lot of fun. The solo game in Legacy, The Testament of Duke de Cracy, is a lot of fun. And the game is just as much fun to play competitively in the regular mode, because it's not playing a solo version necessarily of the game. It's a separate type of game that you play with similar mechanics, and that's something that I wish more companies would do, rather than leaving it to people on Board Game Geek to come up with solo variants, because God love them, not everybody out there can design a game. So sometimes you'll see people say, "Whoa, there's a 2-player variant on." I'm like, "Well, it's not official." So, yeah, very good, great brand, but I don't want to play that. I'd like to play something that's official, and then rate my experience on playing it solo or playing a 2-player game that's supposed to be a 3-player game on that. So.
Yeah, you kind of just answered my next question, which was, how do you feel about that? Well, what about house rules? Like, if you find something you don't feel works in the game, we change it, or we stick by what the designer intended?
I do not house rule
Yeah.
because to me, well, I'll correct I house rule a couple of things, and usually it's not something that adds a rule to a game or changes a rule. Like an example, we play Arkham Horror, and I play Arkham Horror with people who know how to play Arkham Horror. So everybody moves at the same time. We save so much time by everyone moving their investigator at the same time. Because if you do it in the order, is everyone moves, and then everyone gets to do their actions. So for everyone who's moving simultaneously, you cut literally at least an hour off that game. So things like that I will do, but as far as like saying, oh well, this is too overpowered, we're gonna do, I don't do that because at that point I don't want to play the game because it's a different game. I had made a comment on one of our shows about how I hate when they put blank cards in a game box. That I'm supposed to design a card for the game. No, I don't want to design a card for the game. I paid you because you designed the game. I don't want to have to design the game. That's why I don't house rule stuff. If something doesn't work the way it's supposed to be played, I don't play it anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm pretty much the same. Me and Jen were actually talking about Monopoly. She keeps bugging me to go back to that damn game, but I said I hate it because you house rule it with the free park and all that, and it's just a bad game to me. But I'm in the same boat. I try to stick by what the designers make, put in the game. And the blank card things, I'm the same way. Usually I just trash them. Now, what was it going? Oh, the podcast. Um, how much time do you put in to making your podcast, like from beginning to end?
I watched when you had Marty and Tony from Rolling Dice on, and they made a comment about how they make sure they keep their podcast to an hour and 15 minutes. We have no rules. We start, and however long it takes, it takes. We've had shows go 4 hours. We've had shows go an hour and 45 minutes. We've had shows go everywhere in between. And again, I don't care if I have something to say on a particular topic or about a particular game I want to talk about or some news items that come out. We're going to talk about them for however long it takes us to talk about them. We may ramble a little bit, but again, we don't script out what we're going to say ahead of time. If we're doing something like a top 10 list or whatever, we'll make our list. We'll write our list down, but we usually don't write much after that. Maybe the name of the designer and the publisher, but that's about it. So once that's all done, we usually start, like I said, 10 o'clock we start. We finish somewhere around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I edit it the next day, usually, hopefully. Editing takes, depending on how many technical problems we have. Like I said, we use Skype, so sometimes the internet connection doesn't agree with us. It drops somebody, or someone becomes gargled really bad. But other than that, I do very, very little editing in the show. I'll take out pauses and gaps, and again, I'll splice those things together when we have those technical errors. But again, I don't sit there and take every out. I don't take little things out of the show that a lot of other people do, because to me, if you meet me in person, I'm going to sound and talk the exact same way I do on the show. It's not my on-air persona. That's me. What you hear on the show is me. What you hear right now is me. So I say so a lot, like I just did. And I do a lot. But it's not because I'm looking for the words. It's just I'm from the Bronx. That's how we talk. So all in all, each episode probably altogether 5 or 6 hours. And if you're listening to this and watching this right now and you're thinking of starting a podcast, if you want to sound like normal people, like we do, and don't want that high quality thing, yeah, it doesn't take that long to do one. If you want to produce a show with the quality and the sound like the guys at Secret Cabal do, it's going to take you 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount of time to do it. So, they did it again.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, no, I was just curious. I actually meant to ask Jamie about how long it takes him. I'm just curious. Like this, with the video, it takes me roughly about 10 hours for every hour that goes up, roughly. You know, that's from playing the game beforehand to get the rules down and the video editing and all that. You know, I was just curious what the difference is.
Yeah, see,
I do know Jamie
count,
has.
I don't count that time playing games. It's the work because that's time playing games.
I do know Jamie has said that from the Secret Ball, he said if he didn't sleep as little as he does, the podcast wouldn't go up. He doesn't sleep much, you know. So I know he puts a lot of time into it. Now, how did you go about getting sponsors? Did you just go out and ask Ignacy, say, you know, I got this podcast, I'm gonna.
Yes. Pretty much. I put a call out to people saying, you know, would anyone like to sponsor our show? I asked a few times. No, didn't. I never actually went to Ignacy and said, "You want to sponsor the show?" The guys at Black Locust Games were actually the first people to approach me to say they wanted to sponsor the show, which I thought was amazing, considering the fact that they didn't even have a game out at the time. So they were going to be launching a game on Kickstarter. They asked how much it would cost. I gave them the amount. They said, no problem, we're in. I was like, okay. So I had mentioned it a couple times, like on Twitter, that they were going to be sponsoring the show, and I was talking to Ignacy about something, and he said, "Oh, can I sponsor the show?" And I was like, "You sure can." And I was shocked because it was actually funny because usually, someone sponsors a show because they want you to talk about them. And we talk about Ignacy and Portal Games all the time, well before he started sponsoring the show. So it was kind of cool that, he listened to us and he liked us and he wanted to sponsor us. So that was fantastic. So, that's how we basically did it, and that's how we continue to do it. Every year, the sponsorships come up again. I always go back to people who sponsored us the previous year and ask them if they'd like to re-up. And then I open the door and say, okay, this is how many sponsors we're taking this year. This is how many spots I have. If anyone's interested, contact me. So that's basically how we do it. We have advertising available on the show. We've done it a few times. If people want to do it, that's perfectly fine. The show doesn't necessarily cost a lot to put out, but there is a monthly cost as far as the RSS feed, there's a fee, the website, there's a fee. When we do contests and stuff, there's postage and whatnot we have to pay for. Getting new microphones and whatnot, those are all things that come in. So, you don't need a lot of money to do a podcast, but, there are costs involved, and being able to have someone helping us offset those costs is a fantastic thing. And the fact that they're, cool companies. We don't just say, do you want to sponsor us, and then, some guy making a game that we wouldn't play, if you held a gun to our head. We're not going to take their money and say, yeah, well, we'll take your money, because, we want to advertise stuff that we would actually play and we stand behind, so.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to put you. I'm just curious about that. I was thinking about.
Question.
I was thinking about doing something like that for the channel. Just to offset some of the equipment costs. Stuff like you said, equipment costs and all that. Right now, I don't know because of some legal stuff I'm going through with my old job. But I was just curious how that worked. And to be honest with you, Ignacy is one of my favorite designers right now. The last game I'm kind of iffy about, but. I think he's a cool guy. I talked to him a few times, and he's a very friendly guy. Um, now, tell me a little bit about Cardboard Studios. What's that all about?
All right, so Cardboard Studios was it was a pet project of mine. The whole idea was it was supposed to be all in-house originally when I first started talking about it, and it was going to be, everything that Paul, Matt, and I did as far as audio shows or any video content, so on and so forth. Um, my friend Robin Lees he lives in Denmark, came to me and said, he was thinking of starting a podcast, and he was asking me, for ideas, and he had questions and whatnot, and that's when like the light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, hold on. I said, Robin, would you like to be part of Cardboard Studios? And we started talking. He's like, yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to do it. So the Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast was the first show outside of us that became part of the studios. And then I was like, okay, I want to branch this out, but I don't want it to become humongous. That's a weird thing when you think about doing something. You're like, I don't want it to be big, because I don't want it to be big. I don't want it to be to the point where everybody's competing against one another, or someone gets lost in the shuffle because it's just so massive. So what I started looking for shows that complemented my show, and by that I mean people talk about how long our show is, and our show could be even longer if we talk about everything we wanted to talk about, and we just don't have that time to do it. And frankly, if it was a 9-hour show, nobody would listen. But so I started listening to other podcasts. I started listening to podcasts that were fairly new, and we found the guys from Heavy Cardboard, and they talk a lot about the the heavier Euro games, the 18X games, things like that, and we really like them. We really like listening to them, and I was like, this would be cool to have guys who do that. And then we found the Boards Alive guys who have a similar kind of vibe that we have, because they're friends that hang out together and know each other well, but they also do RPGs, which we didn't have. So I was looking at it going, okay, if we put all 4 shows back to back to back to back, that's that 9-hour podcast that I would love to do, because it has all of those things. The Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast is a panel type show. Robin hosts. He has different people on every show, and they talk about a topic, and they bang it back and forth, which we do. We have a topic every episode, but it's only the 3 of us usually. So having different opinions, different voices come in to talk about different things is really, really cool. And then at the end of their show, they do this cool little game on every episode. But I was like, this is cool. I said, let me ask them if they'd be willing to be part of Cardboard Studios. So, again, approached both of them, both the other shows, and they both said yes. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. So, I have a couple of video things that I'm working on that should be coming out probably in the spring. It's a little hard to film in the house with the kids running around. In the spring, I'll have a shed in the back that I can actually use to turn into a full-fledged video studio. But yeah, so that's what Cardboard Studios. Every show that's on it is independent of themselves. They get their own. They're in charge of their own sponsors. They have their own content. I don't make them do anything. I don't give them any guidelines or any rules or anything. I mean, be professional. Common sense stuff. Don't be a complete jerk. But they're a great bunch of guys and a great bunch of shows. If you don't listen to Boards Alive or Heavy Cardboard or Whose Turn Is It Anyway, I highly, highly recommend you check them all out, because who knows, you may actually like them more than my show.
Yeah. No, I don't want to keep you too late. I know. But
you worried about me talking too long? My show's 3 hours long.
That's true. um, I've been doing this thing Lance Meister has suggested, where I'll ask 3 questions. The first one is, what's a game that you love and everybody else hates?
Game that I love that everybody else hates. I don't know if everybody else hates, but a lot of people hate it, and that's Zombicide. I love Zombicide. It's just so much fun, and my kids adore it, so that makes it fun too. But I like I said before, I like games that have fun. I don't care if the rules aren't perfect in that game because they don't need to be. It's fun to play. So yeah, Zombicide. I'll go with that one.
Okay. I've actually never played that. I was thinking about it, but I never got into it. Now, the next question, the flip side. What's one that you hate and everybody else loves?
Agricola. I understand the merits of Agricola. I understand why the design is good in Agricola. I've played it a few times. Actually, it was funny. I thought I would never play this game, and I actually played it on the app when the app came out. I was like, all right, I'm going to finally play Agricola, and I've probably played it 6 or 7 times, and I just don't like it. Sorry, Uwe.
Yeah, I never played that one either. I got Caverna, like I said. I heard it's like a lighter version of that, but Jen wouldn't get into Agricola. She doesn't want to feed people. She just wants to raise cows and sheep and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, Caverna isn't any lighter. You just don't have to feed people.
Yeah. All right. What conspiracy theory do you buy into?
Okay. Yeah. Lance has asked me this question before too. So the conspiracy theory I buy into is. Okay, I don't know how much you know the story. So when Dominion came out, there was another deck building game that came out around the same time called Arctic Scavengers. And it was made by a small company, and Rio Grande bought the rights to the game from this company. And the game disappeared. You couldn't find it anywhere. And the conspiracy theory that I believe is they bought it just so it wouldn't compete with Dominion. Not because they thought it was a good game, but they thought they would take out the competition. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But the good thing about a conspiracy theory is it has to be sort of plausible. And this is.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually have both. Yeah. Huh. Never really thought about that. I did hear the story though. I never really thought about it like that. Okay. Now, Lance and these guys, you're doing a RPG through the Hangout. What is that like doing that online? Like, how different is it from sitting at a table?
Well, I actually a couple of years ago I was playing Dungeons and Dragons online with the people I played with in high school, which was kind of really cool. We weren't broadcasting or anything; we were just playing. It's different. Like I said, I played 4th edition with my sons a few times, but I got 5th edition to run my 13-year-old son and some of his friends through, which we're still trying to get that worked out. It's different. We're using Roll20 and we're playing Pathfinder, which I've never played before, but it's similar to Dungeons and Dragons. So I mean, I've role played before. But I like the whole sitting around the table thing. I'm old school D&D. I don't play with miniatures. Graph paper and pencils, and I'm good to go. But it's fun because for some of the people in the group, they have never played or it's been quite a while since they played. and we all kind of know each other, outside of this campaign. So it's fun. We kind of play off tendencies that people have, and we've been working on it behind the scenes for a while, as far as prepping and getting our characters ready and all that. So it's been a lot of fun to see it actually finally out there, that we finally got started, because we've been talking about it for a few months now. But to actually get it online and get it going, it's a ton of fun. The only problem with doing these online things is, we played for a couple of hours that first night last week, and we have to wait a couple of weeks before the next session starts. And that's the problem with playing RPGs now. When I was a kid, we played all the Saturday. You play for like 12, 13 hours straight. You stop to go to the bathroom and eat. And even though you didn't really stop to eat because you have nothing to mess up, really. But, that's the only thing. It's now the waiting for the next session to start. I'm like, oh, what are we playing? What are we playing again? What are we playing again? But, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I said to you on the Facebook, I never did an RPG, and it's interesting to see how it works out, especially with you guys, since you could tell you kind of know each other outside of this, and, you do feed off each other. And then Suze has never played one, I don't think. It's interesting to see how she in general. Now Rodney's got a bet on who's dying first. Who do you think that's going to be?
Keith.
Keith?
Keith almost died in the first session, but Keith is probably going to die first. I may kill Dan at some point myself. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Dan. I'm not going to kill you. Maybe not. Maybe not. But it's not going to be me. I can tell you that. I'm not dying first.
Okay. Now, when you're playing an RPG, like, is Lance a decent DM? Like, what do you look for in a DM?
Lance is pretty good, especially with us. We're a raucous group, so being able to corral us and keep us in line is it is a good thing for a DM. But a DM should be able to work with what you're doing. You may have, I used to, like I said, I used to make up my own adventures and all that when I was younger, and you'd sit there and you'd have all these things planned out. You're like, oh, of course they're going to go through this door, and then they go through the other door. And you're like, wait a minute, why would you go through that door? And now you have to go all of a sudden on the fly, you have to change, what it is that's going on. And, Lance has been doing this, he's been telling us for like almost 15 to 20 years. He's been DMing. So, it's we only had that first session, and I think he did a good job with what with the group of characters he had to work with. But now I'm looking forward to more.
Sure. Now, what do you prefer, the DM or the other side?
I really don't like the DM, and that's the problem with like games like Imperial Assault or Descent. Is if I play them here at home, I am always going to be the DM, and I don't want to be the DM or the Overlord or whatever it is in the particular game all the time. I don't mind being it. I don't mind doing it, but there's at some point you want to, be in the middle of it instead of, being the puppet master. You want to be the puppet.
Yeah, I'm always a DM here, like Imperial. In general, we were playing Mansions of Madness, and we decided to switch it up, and I was lost. I didn't know how to control the investigators at all. I didn't know the rules or anything else. Yeah, it's usually I'm the DM or the evil guy, like the Nazis if we're playing a war game, or I'm always the bad one. All right, so if you meet somebody on the street, just get into the hobby, what advice would you give to them for the board game section for now? We'll get into the podcast a little bit.
What would I tell them to get, to play? This is what I tell people.
What kind of advice?
All right, this is what I tell people in general. All right, don't listen to anybody else. Play as many games as you can and come to your own decision. People who are like, oh, I bought this game because you said it was a good game. And if you don't like it, am I wrong? No, it could still be a good game. You just may not like it. Like I said before, Agricola is a good game. I don't like it, but Agricola is a good game. Try as many things as you can. Open your mind to playing games. If you get to go to a convention that has, introductory RPG sessions and you've never played an RPG, go sign up. If you're an RPG player and you've never played a board game, go sign up. There are so many different things out there for you to try that you just should. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like something that everybody else likes. And if you like something that nobody else likes, who cares? This. If you go, if you went to Essen last year, like 1,000 new games came out. Nobody is going to like all of those games, but there's going to be somebody who likes each and every one of those. Not one person like each and one, but there's somebody for each of those games. So again, try things out. Try something new. Get out of your comfort zone. The best thing I can say is don't ever take gaming too serious. It's a game. I remember, getting into fights with my brothers growing up over board games. And we laugh about it now, but there's no reason to ever get that upset over a board game. Ever. Maybe diplomacy. But other than that...
Good advice. All right, now if somebody's getting into a podcast, what advice would you give to them?
Don't do it. No, really. I tell people are like, oh, I want to do a podcast, and what kind of microphone do I need? What kind of this I need? And I tell them, go. I said, do you have a microphone now that you do use on Skype? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's all you need. When you're starting out, there's a lot of people who worry about having the perfect sound and the perfect thing. My advice to everyone who does a podcast is be yourself and be personable. Get people to like you. If people like you, they will listen to your show. You could have the most knowledge in the world on board games or whatever you want to do a podcast on. But if you sound like a robot or you are so lost in your thoughts and when you say things, no one's going to listen to you. Get people to like you. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Some podcasts I listen to, and I like the people who are on the show. I don't agree with a single blessed thing they say. And a lot of times I'm yelling at my phone or my radio, like, how could you even think that? Like, what's wrong with you? But I like them. They're personable. They have a personality. Have a personality on your show. Be interesting. Again, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to sound like you just got out of voiceover school and, you have the perfect radio voice for what you're doing. No, just be yourself. That's all I can tell people. You can do it. Our motto is we're going to keep doing the show until we don't want to do it anymore. I look at download numbers, and it's cool to see when they go up. And if they go down, they go down. They vary. Some shows I get 50% more downloads than my normal thing because someone sees the topic or heard about the topic or someone mentions it on Twitter we're talking about and someone else listens. But I don't care how many people are listening to the show. We're going to keep doing it because we like doing it. If 10 people are listening and those 10 people are enjoying the show, great. If 10,000 people are listening and they're enjoying the show, great. I'm on a podcast group on Facebook, and someone was talking about how they were concerned about their download numbers aren't going to seem to be going up. They're kind of stagnant. How do you get more people listening? And I'm like, that's the last thing you should worry about. Just keep doing what you're doing. Make yourself better, and the people who listen may tell somebody else. Someone may happen across your show, It's funny because I don't look at the numbers as far as how many people are downloading. What I like to look at though is where people are listening. I get to see that we have people listening in Costa Rica. Gentlemen gave us wrote a review for us on iTunes in Costa Rica today. That's cool to me. I don't need to, have the highest download numbers in of all the podcasts. It doesn't matter to me. I do it because I like to do it, and I don't care if I had 100,000 downloads. If I wasn't having fun doing it anymore, I would just pull the plug on the show. So, that's it. It's not a job. Once you start getting paid for it, then you can worry about those things. But until then, have fun.
It's good advice. It's actually kind of philosophy with this. So I see it as an extension of the hobby. I'm the same way. I don't look at subscribers and all that. I do look at the regions they come from and stuff like that. So if people wanted to get a hold of you or find your podcast or whatever, where would they go to?
The best way to get a hold of me is actually on Twitter. You can get me there at CBJ Podcast. You can email me at thecardboardjungle@gmail.com if you have any questions about anything. The website is thecardboardjungle.com, and the shows come out every 2 weekish. We're not very set on a scheduled day that they come out because the show is 3 hours long. You probably haven't finished listening to the last one by the time the next one comes out. So, but we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, anywhere you download podcasts from, you can find us there. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I do want to talk to you when we shut down off air, but I'd like to thank you for coming on. Like I said.
Thanks for inviting me, Barry.
It's fun. So for everybody watching, good night. If you're watching later on, check out his website there. In his podcast. It's a long podcast, but it's interesting. I listen to long ones anyway. I listen to 3-4 hour cardboard or secret ball. So you're about the same level there, time wise. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Good night.
Mm-hmm.